colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2021 Cyber Stability Conference, which now for the second year takes place in a hybrid format, allowing us a much broader and much more diverse participation. With the most recent developments of the COVID pandemic and associated new restrictions on traveling and so on, this hybrid format proves to be particularly useful as it allows us to bring you speakers from all around the world who would otherwise not have been able to travel and share with us all of their valuable expertise and knowledge. More speakers, many more speakers I should say, than originally planned had to move their participation from in-person to virtual, and very understandably so. But we promise you that this will not impact the quality of the discussion today. If anything, without the stress of having to travel under such uncertainty, we hope that our speakers will be even more engaged in our discussions today. This year's conference is supported by the very generous contributions of UNIDIR's Security and Technology Program core donors, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Switzerland, and Microsoft, and with additional contributions from France and the Russian Federation. Maintaining an open, peaceful, secure, and stable cyberspace is more important than ever. The COVID pandemic has once again fast-forwarded global digital transformation for all sectors and all aspects of life. It's increasingly difficult, I should say, it's increasingly difficult to even remember maybe what our world was like before January 2020. The digital transformation sparks innovation and growth, and it helps to accelerate and to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. And at the same time, and as we're all too well aware, threats are also increasing in the digital domain. New attack surfaces are emerging, new attack vectors and more sophisticated ways of carrying out malicious cyber activity. Malicious actors are multiplying in this domain, and all of this is quite concerning, as we're well aware. At the same time also, the impact of cybersecurity on global strategic stability is becoming increasingly apparent and increasingly relevant. Now, of course, the international community has not been sitting idle. Quite to the contrary, 2021 has been an important and a productive year for multilateral discussions on international cybersecurity. The successful conclusion of both the GGE and the open-ended working group earlier this year is important for three distinct reasons. First, it showed that multilateral diplomacy could continue even amidst the global pandemic and with all the challenges this has posed for diplomatic in-person interaction. It was challenging, no doubt, but in the end a sense of urgency and a sense of responsibility prevailed. Second, the processes further elaborated the international framework for responsible state behavior, for example, by providing new guidance on norms implementation. Third, the successful conclusion set up in the best possible way the new 5-year open-ended working group starting in less than 2 weeks, and which will provide ample opportunity and important opportunities to further advance security and stability in cyberspace. In this context, the timing of this year's Cyber Stability Conference is critical. A lot has been achieved in the past, and now how can we move forward? A 5-year mandate clearly gives an important opportunity to push the envelope forward with a more strategic midterm horizon perspective. An opportunity that should not be missed. This is why we've convened representatives from government, industry, civil society at our conference today to reflect on the past and to reflect on how to pave the way for the future. How can we build on these past achievements to advance the agenda for an open, secure, stable, accessible, and peaceful ICT environment? What has been discussed and agreed so far? And what should be prioritized next and then going forward? These are just some of the overarching questions that we intend to pursue at our conference today. Now, to set the scene and then to kick off the conference, we've prepared 2 videos for you. And we will start with a short scene setter an animated history of the various UN cyber processes. As you know, they've been going on for quite a while. So really, to start things off today, we want to set the scene with this animated history.
Cyberspace is a place of opportunities, but at the same time, it's also a place where new threats arise that can pose challenges to international peace and stability. For over 20 years, the United Nations has facilitated negotiations among governments with the goal of ensuring stability and peace in cyberspace. The process dates back to 1998, when the Russian Federation advanced a proposal for a draft resolution that addressed the issue of the developments in the field of information and telecommunications in the context of international security. In 2001, the General Assembly adopted a resolution that proposed the establishment of a group of governmental experts to conduct a study on the topic. The first group convened in 2004. However, given the complexity of the issues involved, no agreement was reached on a consensus report. In 2005, the General Assembly passed a resolution that established a new group of governmental experts. The second GGE produced a consensus report with a set of recommendations. The first important stone was laid. Soon after, a new GGE was established. Experts agreed on a consensus report where it was recognized that international law, in particular the UN Charter, is applicable to cybersphere. The fourth session was another success. Experts agreed on a consensus report where it was proposed 11 voluntarily non-binding norms, principles of the responsible state's behavior, as well as confidence-building measures, international cooperation, and capacity building. In the same year, the report was adopted by the General Assembly, which called upon all member states to be guided in their use of ICTs by the framework presented in the GGE report. The following year, the General Assembly established a fifth session. The group met from 2016 to 2017. However, this time experts didn't find an agreement, in particular on how existing rules of international law apply to state uses of ICTs. In December 2018, the General Assembly adopted two resolutions, one calling for a sixth UN GGE and another establishing the first UN open-ended working group. The mandates of these two processes were quite similar, however, the composition of them was different. Closed participation for the GGE and open participation for the OEWG. The two processes came to positive conclusions. The OEWG's report reaffirmed the language and recommendations from the GGE consensus reports and addressed issues that so had not been widely discussed before, such as the protection of medical infrastructure and the endeavor to ensure the general availability and integrity of the Internet. A few months later, the GGE produced a consensus report that included an additional understanding of the 11 voluntary GGE 2015 norms. What's next? A new OEWG has been established with a 5-year mandate starting from 2021 to 2025. The United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research has actively supported both processes throughout the years, and it remains actively engaged in producing research that explores options to strengthen cyber stability and crisis management mechanisms. Its cyber policy portal has been recognized as a confidence-building tool by the last reports of GGE and OEWG.
This really just was a scene setter and to remind us where we stand in the discussions currently. Also to show you, of course, that UNIDIR is increasingly using innovative formats to share its findings and knowledge. And now to kick off the conference for good and to really kickstart the discussions in the best possible way, we're very pleased to share with you a message from Izumi Nakamitsu, the UN High Representative for Disarmament Affairs.
Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful for the opportunity to contribute to UNIDIR's flagship event, the 2021 Cyber Stability Conference. This year's conference is especially timely as a new open-ended working group on information and communication technologies will commence its work later this month. This conference provides a valuable opportunity for representatives from government, industry, and civil society to reflect on both past successes as well as on where our collective efforts need to focus in the future. With the successful conclusion of 2 intergovernmental processes this year, the 6th group of governmental experts, and the first open-ended working group, multilateral efforts to ensure a safe, secure, and peaceful ICT environment have reached a high point. There is an increasingly clearer picture of a cyber threat landscape and the implication of malicious use of ICTs for the maintenance of international peace and security, human rights, and sustainable development. The General Assembly has recognized the elaboration of an initial framework comprised of concrete norms of responsible state behavior in cyberspace. These norms aim to ensure cooperation and information exchange, to prevent escalation including because of misattribution of responsibility, to uphold human rights, and to protect critical infrastructure. States have identified common principles and processes related to building the capacity of all states in order to ensure they have the ability to prepare and respond to malicious ICT activity. And states have elaborated additional understanding on the applicability of international law to cyberspace, while committing themselves to study this topic further. As important as these substantive gains are, it is also encouraging that the General Assembly has returned to a single consensus resolution and intergovernmental process on cybersecurity. Looking forward to the work ahead, I wish to highlight 3 key areas in which more progress can be made. First, we need deepened practical efforts to support effective implementation of the agreed normative framework at the sub-regional, regional, and global levels. Such measures can include reviews of national and regional strategy frameworks on the basis of voluntary reporting or peer-to-peer review processes. Confidence-building measures and international cooperation to build national capacities can also help states develop means to detect, attribute, and respond to ICT-related incidents. Second, states must commit to further unpacking of the applicability of international law to cyberspace, including international humanitarian law. As an essential baseline, states have affirmed that international law, in particular the UN Charter, is applicable and essential to maintaining peace and stability and promoting an open, secure, stable, accessible, and peaceful ICT environment. Nonetheless, it is critical that states discuss concretely how international law applies to cyberspace, including acts carried out in the context of armed conflict or that might otherwise result in the loss of civilian life or the damage and destruction of civilian objects. Third, deepened engagements with various stakeholders should be pursued. I have repeatedly emphasized the importance of engaging a range of stakeholders in an inclusive and sustained manner, given the unique character of ICTs. United Nations processes benefit greatly from the expertise, knowledge, and experience of representatives from civil society, the private sector, academia, and the technical community. Particularly given the ongoing limitations of access to headquarters by non-governmental organizations during the COVID-19 pandemic, it is important that their meaningful participation is safeguarded. I trust this conference will provide space to tackle these 3 priority areas. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, future success will be defined by the degree to which cyberspace is maintained as a safe, secure, and peaceful domain. To this end, I look forward to engaging with UNIDIR and all other relevant stakeholders in our collective efforts towards a peaceful ICT environment. I wish you all a very successful conference.